So good morning, and I want to welcome all of you today to meet with my lovely, lovely friend, mentor, networking guru, and everything else that goes on for women, the new, lovely Gills Donnell, who does amazing things for women. So Jill, just give us a quick background about what you do for women at the moment, because we'll go back on the history bit.
Okay, so good morning, Bev, and thanks very much for giving me this opportunity for your amazing platform here in the webinar that you're doing. It's wonderful. So I am at the moment very much involved in running business networking events for women. And that's developed really, as it often does when you run your own business. So I've been going with Successful Women is my business, and for 3 years now we've been running events, workshops, training, everything we can do really to support women in their businesses or those that work in organisations to be the best that they can be.
Brilliant. And Jill, I go to many of Jill's workshops and networks and things, but Jill, you haven't always been in business, have you?
No, that's true.
You had a previous career,
yes,
which may surprise you all. So Jill, what did you do before you went to business?
I did lots of things. I worked in a shop, I worked in the civil service, but I guess you're talking about the 30 years that I spent in the police force.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can imagine Jill plodding the beat. But
yeah.
Tell us about your rise in there, because you got quite senior in a male-dominated environment. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so when I retired, which is 6 years ago now, I can't believe where that time has gone. I left as a chief superintendent, which is not bad for a girl, and you're always a girl in the police.
Yeah.
So I spent 30 years in Dorset, in one force, started, as you say, on the beat in 1981. It's just such a fabulous job. And I just loved it. I have a very short attention span, Bev. So that sort of job is ideal for me because you never know what you're going to do from one day. It really is just amazing. And so I did all sorts of things. Obviously, it's very different now. 1981, we just moved into the area where women were doing the same work as men, getting the same pay and all that sort of stuff. But that was a relatively recent transition. So I was 24 actually when I joined, so not as a cadet as some had been or younger. So I'd done a few things, and I think that contributed to the slight difference. I'd been stopped for speeding. I'd been in a pub when it got raided, that sort of stuff.
So what else would you do?
And I've done quite a few other jobs. I worked in shops and restaurants and civil service and all sorts of stuff. So I think that contributed to the slight difference I was to many of the officers that were joining at that time, that maybe was about out of school because it was a big push to get police officers in. And I think that probably had some influence about the success that I had. My dad brought me up to just, if you wanted to do something, you go to. So I never really thought about it. And now on reflection, I do talks, as you know, and I reflect back on the work that I've done. And I did all sorts of things without thinking that it was going to be a problem, that there was going to be an issue. And I think probably I was quite fortunate at that time because I was in a big squad in Bournemouth, in Dorset, which was the busiest area. And there were lots of men, obviously. They were older than me. They'd been around a long time, and they were complete gentlemen. Now, I could reflect in a different view now.
Yeah.
Time, it was great. It was supportive. There were 3 other women on my squad. Again, that's quite unusual. And so I just went off and I had the most amazing fun. And I've got the sort of, well, you'll know me, I've got the sort of attitude where I used to try and reason with drunks. And you can't do that. It's a complete waste of time. And I remember I went off to do an attachment to CID where I spent a lot of my career, which I just loved. And I went to a burglary of an elderly lady. And clearly she was desperately upset. So I went in, I turned my radio off, and I spent the next 2 hours with her, unbeknown to me that everybody in the world is now looking for me because they can't get hold of me. I went back to the office, strolled in, I've done it. Where have you been? What were you doing? Oh, she was really upset. So I spent some time with her, and that was just the sort of start. And I think that did mark me out as slightly different at that time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I got into CID. I love that because you get called governor. Mom, a bit later on is mom. I do miss that, that's probably the thing I miss.
I'll remember that the next networking. We're all going to call you mom.
If you would. The kids will no longer call me mom. It's very disappointing. But anyway, a fascinating job. But that really got me into sort of the influences on what I do now.
Yeah.
Because for the last 10 years of my career, I got to a point where I went on a course. It was quite life-changing for me. It was a single gender course. Now, up until that point, all the courses I'd been on, I was usually the only girl.
Yeah.
Sometimes there'd be two of us, which was really great fun, but it was a load of blokes. No problem. I could drink with the best of them. But this course was for senior leaders that were women, the very first one. And that opened my up. Well, I say quite life-defining for me, because a couple of things. I went back to my force afterwards and looked around and realised there were no other women at my level. I was the detective chief inspector at that time. Where were all the women? And also on that course, I was there with 11 other chief inspectors and superintendents. And I went there thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here? I'm just not worthy of all these women are amazing.
Yeah.
Then you realise they're all thinking the same.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I thought of myself, sounds a bit weird, but as a woman, and as the governor, and all those other things, and sort of made me think, it's all very well, Jill, you having great fun and doing what you're doing and getting where you're getting, but what about all the other women? There were some amazing, talented women around me, and I realised that they weren't putting themselves forward for promotion. I did it because I'm me.
Yeah.
So I then had a huge amount of fun because I had a great boss and I said, boss, there's no other women up here. He went, yeah, I've been waiting for you to realise that. And then he gave me a budget. That's always cool.
That's good. You wouldn't get that today.
A bit of a pot of money. I got involved with the National Association, the BAWP, British Association. Right. So I got on their national executive. But again, I often talk about grabbing opportunities. I went to a conference with the only other woman at my level, and it was a national conference of women in policing, and we happened to be in the AGM of the BAWP. And the Julie Spence, who at that time was the chief constable and the president, chief constable in Cambridge, said, we're looking for people for our executive committee. And my friend got hold of my arm and went like that.
That's why no one sits beside you today, Jill, because it's all that you do.
Absolutely right. So that's how I got on the committee. And it was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
I met some amazing women. I got involved in national initiatives. And so I got back and went, there's all these things going on and we're not doing anything. And so we created a women's network.
Yeah.
And we started lots of positive action initiatives, including introducing into the force a women's development program called Springboard that I'm involved in.
Yeah.
And I watched, Bev, well, the stats I could give you, that we increased the number of women in senior positions in 10 years from 10% to 25.
That's incredible.
And that's the sort of thing that you think, you know what, I love this.
Yeah, yeah.
When I retired, I did it.
You did. Can I just ask you, though, when you first started in the police force, was it your intention to get as high as you could, or was it just, I wanted to...
No, the reason I joined the police force was because I was going out with a lad who I'd got a bit bored with. I told you I bore easily. And I'd heard, I lived in Bournemouth. And at that time, if you joined the police force in Dorset, they would post you to the other end of the county that was racing. At that time, that was the other end of the world. Now I drive it every day.
Yeah.
So it matters not. But and of course, what happened was they posted me to Bournemouth. We got married and divorced 2 years later. And actually,
that's sort of worked for you.
sort of. That was the reason. So no, and when I was in there, I took exams because they were there.
Yeah.
I did stuff because it seemed like a good idea. In fact, I remember talking to a guy, because there were some very negative men, there were some negative women, to be honest. It's not specific. And I remember somebody saying to me, oh, you're ambitious. And I remember clearly denying being ambitious. And of course now you think, well, why would you do that? What's wrong with that? But of course we all know about the potential negative connotations that some give to women who are to be, and that at that point that was a negative. It's not now, of course, and that's what I was telling other women to be, but that was all part of my understanding about why aren't women doing this? Or
Yeah.
some twit saying something like that might have something to do with it.
I think it was very difficult because, you know, like you, I remember those days, and I'm a bit of a, well, I'm just going to go and do it and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I think it was far more difficult for women in those sorts of roles in those days than it is now. And that's because of women like you that helped change some of that thinking, especially within
I hope so. I hope this, you know, if there's anything when you finally do shuffle off, any legacy left behind, it's stuff like that. You know, I did some great jobs. I got involved I set up our child protection unit, domestic violence, did some fabulous murder inquiries. But if I'm honest with you, that's the bit that
I can imagine. Which brings me on to, our Jill here has an MBE. Now, I say that because I cannot boast about having a friend with an MBE before, but I can now. But I always wanted to ask, and always felt it was a bit rude to ask, because it may be a state secret, and she may tell me.
Maybe. I could say, sorry, Bev, I can't tell you. But I'm not going to.
I'm dying to know.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
What your MBE was for? How did you get it?
Well, I suppose, unsurprisingly, it was the services to women in policing.
Well, that makes sense.
Because, and again, you know, if we think about what you and I say to women all the time, which is about grab opportunities, I took that opportunity of my friend putting my hand up. I got onto a national committee. I went on that course and thought, we've got to do something about this. And alongside my day job, I was the gender lead for the force. I'm also involved in charity work time in my hometown. So it's all that sort of stuff put together that somebody felt worthy of recognition. And I went and saw Her Majesty the Queen at Windsor Castle.
You met Her Majesty?
Indeed. Bless her.
You've got to tell me how you felt. Stood in front of the Queen, getting a medal like that.
Well, you know about my daughter's drama and crisis, don't you?
Yes, that's a whole other story about her.
Story we don't have time for, but all I remember is Drama's voice above everybody else is saying, is that the Queen? She looks like my nanny. Because she did look like Nanny. She had a dress on, she had white hair and a handbag, crown and all the rest of it. So, that's my abiding memory, if I'm honest, Bev.
Oh, but it's so nice to know you've got, again, that's another legacy. So let's bring you up to date now.
Okay.
Because we're talking to women who I want to just be inspired to stand out and shine. And you have, when we think of you, we think of successful women. What is your definition? What do you see success looking like?
Well, I think the thing that I say most of the time is that success is different for everybody. And for some women, success will be getting out of the house in the morning.
Yeah.
Because of what they may have to, challenges that may have to deal with. So success for me, I suppose, goes back to my thoughts about those days and those women in the organisation I worked with. There were some amazing, talented women, and they weren't achieving their full potential. We have a choice in life of what we do.
Yeah.
We're ambitious, whether we grab opportunities or what have you. For me, one of the biggest issues for many women, and certainly the women I work with there and those that I've worked with since I've retired and started my company, is what goes up and up here.
Yeah.
The biggest barrier, there's lots of glass ceilings and lifts and cliffs and all sorts of glass. I know that.
Falling over all of them.
Yeah, I know it, and I am not for any moment, if any woman is watching this and is in an organisation where there are some real issues for her based on her sex, I'm not demeaning that. But the reality, I think, is that so many of us, the thing that stops us is what we think in our heads. Yeah. And that lack of confidence. And the most confident of person can have doubt. We all do it. I do it. You do it. We think, I don't want to get up today. This is never going to work. Why did I do this? Why did I start?
Hence the purple wig, in case you're wondering, people. Bad day, pink wig.
Love it. And that's got to be the best response. And that's always your response. Well, if we all get days like that, and you just get up and you just do your best.
Yeah.
So defining success is really different. It's just, for me, it's about changing a mindset. It's about women actually making a choice as about what they want to do. And if there's something they want to achieve, get that support, believe you can do it, and go for it. And create your own success, whatever that means to you.
No, I agree with you completely. I think sometimes we talk about success and it's quite scary for women. Who see success as the person up there leading some big company or getting OBEs and MBEs and whatever. But it isn't.
No, and that's the whole point, isn't it? You know,
Yeah,
that women's development program I talked to you about.
yeah,
You know about it because we bring to every workshop a guest speaker who comes along and tells their story.
yeah,
Because we all make assumptions, we all make judgments, and you've done that for me, thank you. And you know, you look at somebody and think, oh, they're really successful, or they're this and that, and then you hear their story and you go, oh, you know what, maybe I could do that.
yeah,
And so I think it's really important for women to be honest and authentic and tell their stories, not because they want a load of sympathy.
no,
They want other women to go, actually, if you're managing with all that and you've achieved this, maybe I can do that.
absolutely, absolutely. And as you say, it could be as simple as, you know, the kids have left home, and I think about my daughter, you know, 10 years out of work, and just the step of getting her to do something for her is a success, and that's great.
Absolutely, and it's a really scary place to be.
Yeah.
And we're all different. Some people will find it really easy to do certain things. I find it really easy to stand up and talk in front of people. Sometimes might be a load of rubbish, but you know, I have the ability to do that because I used to put a uniform on. I mean, I spent this in CRD in normal clothes, but you know what I mean. You put it on, don't you? You put your arm on and you get out there, and both you and I have had some real challenges in our lives, but it hasn't stopped us getting up and getting out there, and people wouldn't know.
That's right.
You know, that the ability to just push on. And for me, what drives me, you know, I've got a significant birthday coming soon, and I went out with a dear friend yesterday, and she said to me, are you going to retire?
Again.
What I want to do that for. What I want to do is for my two girls who are at university now, know that their mum has done stuff and be a good role model.
Yeah.
And that includes going, you know what, I don't really feel like this, I'm going to do it today.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
But it is about that first step, isn't it? The first step for me is always about making the choice. Whether you make that first step today, tomorrow, or next year, you have to make the choice that you're going to. And for me, that's so important.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that for me is really important is actually supporting other women.
I was going to talk about, because you talk about tribes a lot. This is something which I love about Jill. She talks about gathering tribes together. And I'm part of her tribe now, so it's great. So I might wear an Indian headdress next.
I think we should do that one day.
We'll get shouted at for that. But tell us this whole thing about when you talk about tribes.
Well, I think it's about, for me anyway, it's about having a group of people around you. They don't have to be women, but in the particular area that I work with, women who are running their own businesses, there is something very special about putting together a group of women in similar situations. They might be in very different organisations or different businesses, but actually we're all experiencing similar issues. We've all got concerns about, I'm not sure my website's right, or is that email thing right that I did, or should I get some premises? And
can I feed the baby while I'm sending that email?
Absolutely, you can. I've seen it on the telly in the Parliament. Yay! You know, it's just about a group of like-minded people, and for us, it's women.
Yeah.
And I go back to that course I told you about. I had great fun in the police. I had some great friends that are still friends now, guys. But there was nothing like, for me, it was completely different being in a group of women. There were a lot of tears because we'd all kept up this whole, you know, we're the boss, we're doing this, and the ability to stop and go, you know what, this is really hard.
Yeah.
And talk to people that understand. And you can say till you're blue in the face, well, you just talked about being authentic, you should tell everybody. No. If you're the boss, you've got a particular responsibility to act in a certain way. And in that scenario, to be able to sit with other women who were facing similar challenges, doing great things, great successes, but just maybe the pressure, I don't know, was amazing. And I think creating within what we do now in the networks and the workshops is bring together groups of women. And in that program that I run, I've run, since I left the police force, 12 programs, and I have never yet had one group of women that haven't just gelled and carried on seeing each other after. You know what I mean? There's just something really special about it. And we encourage, I mean, if I give you an example, we had a meeting on Wednesday this week at Taunton, where I run one of the network groups. There were 21 women there. Oh, the energy was amazing. Now, particularly, we ended up with 7 coaches in the room.
Wow, yeah.
I thought, oh, this is a bit heavy. Particularly felt for the lawyer and the graphic designer and all the other people. But you know what? It just works so well.
Yeah.
We don't go, oh, you can only have one.
No.
They were so different. And, you know, I was humbled by the testimony afterwards about how it had worked. But one thing that resonated with me is one of the women, very experienced at networking, said to me, you sold it to me the minute I walked through the door and you were there with a big smile, saying hello, welcoming me and introducing me into a group, because it's really scary. It doesn't matter how often you do this stuff. It can be really scary walking into a room full of strangers. For anyone. And I just thought, yeah, that's what we want. It's to be welcoming, it's to be supportive, and I don't think you can beat it.
You can't. Can
I get off my soapbox now?
Well, I will just join you on the soapbox, because I have learnt so much from Gill's network, and not just from Gill herself, but from the ladies that go and everything else as a group. So what about the future, Gill, then? You know, you've done a lot.
Yeah.
Do you see anything new coming in the future, or are you just expanding your network across the globe?
I think I might go a bit global.
Not the global.
You know, well, I might go into Devon. We're in Dorset and Somerset at the moment. Devon beckons, I have to say.
Well, I'm going to look forward to watching that growth.
Yeah, I don't know, Bev. You know me. I'm a bit of a shiny, bright object person. I'll wake up tomorrow and have another brilliant idea, and we could be going somewhere else. But I think I've found something now that is particularly special. And if you can replicate it in different areas, which we appear to be doing in different parts of the Southwest, then, you know, I'll be happy that actually there was a woman in that. It was an amazing meeting. In that same meeting was leaving the organisation she was in, and actually she was in tears in the end, by saying thank you to me, to 2 other women in the room, saying how she'd started, couldn't speak, and now look at it. And because of our support, she was going to start her own business. And it was, we're all in tears. It was just
lovely.
Oh, that's what you get out of bed for.
And I think it proves, and I know I certainly, before I started my business, got to a point in my life when I was thinking, I'm getting older now, is that it? But I think for me, it shows to women, and all of you women listening, and men, if you're listening too, never too late to do what you enjoy.
No,
it's not about going, I'm going to go out there and earn a huge fortune, or I'm going to become the next. It's about going, what do I enjoy, and going and doing it.
Absolutely. It's never too late to follow your dreams. I'm 60 this year, and I'm going to climb Kilimanjaro.
Well, I'm 60 in 2 years, and I ain't going to go climb Kilimanjaro. I might attempt the molehill in the garden, and I'll do that successfully.
You will.
Absolutely,
you will. Absolutely.
Thank you, Gill. That has been brilliant, and I know that everyone listening is going to get a lot from that. And I can't thank you enough for joining me on my online do, as I say, and standing up and shining for the rest of us.
Well, thank you, Bev, for doing so much for women and giving them their voice, because that is how they're going to carry on shining. So thank you too.
Thank you. Okay, bye.